Hello everyone. Today I will be talking about the Soviet T-34 medium tank. I recently wrote a paper for college on the tank and went into it trying to prove that its German counterparts were the better vehicles. Because, who doesn't love the German big cats like the Tiger and Panther? But as I continued my research, I couldn't avoid coming to a conclusion that honestly made me uncomfortable at the time. And this was that the T-34 was in many ways superior to the German big cats. Now, I know that may surprise and even anger some of you, but hear me out on this one. So, the story of the T-34 began in 1937 with a desire to replace the inadequate designs of the BT series fast tank and the T-26 light tank. Both of these designs had been sent to help in the Spanish Civil War, and the Soviets weren't exactly happy with their performance. A man by the name of Mikhail Koshkin, I think I pronounced that right, was appointed to lead the design team, and it wasn't long before they came up with the A-20. This tank fairly closely resembled the T-34, except it had thinner armor at about 20mm sloped and a 45mm anti-tank gun, both of which were adequate for the time. However, soon the Battle of Khalkhin Gol would take place, a border conflict between the Japanese and Russians. The Russians once again fielded their older T-26 and BT series tanks, and, well, they found them wholly unsuitable for modern warfare, with their tank losses far exceeding those of the Japanese. This prompted Stalin to order a second prototype of the A-20. This tank was the T-34. The T-34 featured 45mm sloped armor on all sides of the tank. The sloping on the front in particular gave the armor an effective thickness of nearly 70 to 80mm. The tank was equipped with a lower velocity 75mm gun, which was excellent for the time. It was powered by a diesel engine with backup starters for cold weather, as well as wider tracks giving it a low ground pressure, giving it a total top speed of around 33 miles per hour. This finished product of the T-34 was put into production in 1940, but kept in most secrecy until the war broke out due to its advanced design. So, what is it that made the T-34 better than the German tanks? Well, quite a lot. You see, tank design is a whole lot more than who can fit the biggest gun on the most well-armored vehicle. I mean, the mouse is a prime example of that being a terrible idea. And this has become a prevalent thought among many people, due to modern tank video games presenting a very one-dimensional view of tank warfare. In reality, tank designers have to look at the terrain their tanks will be fighting on, the cost of the tank, and the purpose of the tank. The Soviet designers under Koshkin seemed to have a very good idea of what World War II would become, as the T-34 is pretty much the perfect tank for the high attrition rates of World War II. It could be produced significantly faster than the German tanks, and it was given upgrades throughout the war, including an 85mm gun, making it always capable of both destroying German tanks and outmaneuvering them, but at less than half the cost of the German tanks. As you could imagine, this produced a pretty big problem for the Germans. The T-34 was also incredibly easy to maintain and repair, with even the entire engine and transmission being relatively easy to replace in the field, even with a relatively unexperienced crew due to instructions being literally posted on the inside of the tank. The Soviets also practiced a design philosophy called planned obsolescence, in where the tank's reliability would not last longer than the expected survival time of the tank. This leads many people to say that the T-34 is unreliable, but that wasn't exactly considered a flaw. In fact, the T-34 was just as reliable as its over-engineered German counterparts, but 10 times easier to repair in the event that something broke. This goes back to a cultural difference in the East and West, where here in the West, we see quality as something that will last a really long time without breaking. However, in the East, oftentimes quality can mean something that may not last forever, but when it breaks, it's easy and cheap to repair, which really makes a lot of sense if you think about it, especially in the context of fielding thousands of tanks in the greatest war in human history. Being a student of history myself, I found all this information very interesting and has honestly really changed a lot of my views on strategy and how warfare is waged, especially in the principle of minimal force, in which you are to do just enough to get the job done and nothing more if possible. The Soviets used this to great effect in the T-34, making a good enough tank that they could field thousands of, easily overwhelming the German tanks and in many ways outperforming them as well. It makes you wonder if the Germans had done what the Soviets did and just sticking to a couple cheap but effective designs like, say, the Panzer IV, could they have turned the tide of the war? Well, probably not, but it's an interesting thought experiment. Anyway, I want to thank all of you for watching this video, and I will link all my sources below, and see you next time? Maybe? Not really sure if I want to keep making videos? Guess we'll see.